All right.
And here we are.
Off without a hitch. Went off without a hitch.
Well, it looked like it was a little snafu there where it's like started over again or something. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
we
it's
have had internet problems here this past week. Middle of our big meeting, and we figured for people that don't know, Ken lives way the hell out in the boonies, and so he can't even get a text
we
message.
had running water in an outhouse out here. That's right.
Yeah. You got a creek behind the yard. Yeah.
That's right.
No, but so we kind of figured that you lost your internet, and so you had to get in your car and you had to go up to high ground to get.
I did. I shit you not, because I can't. So my setup here is there's an AT&T cell phone tower a quarter of a mile from my house. Like I can see it from my deck, but I don't have AT&T. I have Spectrum, who uses the Verizon network. Well, the Verizon tower there's about 2 miles away, and then it's about 4 miles away. And so when my internet goes out at my house and the Wi-Fi goes down, that's how I connect through. And the calls and everything, they're over the Wi-Fi. And so if it goes out, I'm screwed, brother. I literally have to go in the car and go over a mile to connect to the Verizon tower so that I can send messages.
You just need to get Starlink, man. Get Starlink.
So, well, I've looked into Starlink. If you mentioned that, so the $80 a month for Starlink is in very few select markets, and it's like 4 addresses across the country. So that's like a bunch of bullshit price. The price for me here was twice as much as I'm paying now. So
yeah, I hear you.
But it's probably more.
They've got us, man. They've got us.
Yes, Spectrum Internet Service.
Yeah,
it's good. That's what I have. It's what I love. But
there's not enough glass in the world in the fiber to reach all the way out to you. So
actually, it's funny you mentioned that though. But I've got fiber everywhere out here. Probably not run to my house specifically, but I mean they have a brand new hub right here outside of Pacific, and the damn service goes down all the time. Yeah. So yeah, it's great. It's great. As you might imagine now, or anybody that might watch this in the future who has seen me before too, you probably understand that there's a profanity-laced tirade every time that happens. So I'm just like, no, just to make
if I had to get in my car to go send a message every time the internet went out, I would be fuming.
Oh, it's a deal, brother.
I'd be driving a beater because I'd be punching the windows, and
yeah, it is something. But it's Friday Fun Day, and we are back here for the Creative Real Estate Investing Mastery podcast. So, how are you doing this fine Friday, Mr. Coffman?
I am awesome. I not that anybody needs to hear it, but I'm going to update everyone on my. I don't know. I picked up. I don't even know if we talked about this. Maybe it probably is the wrong place to do it, which is why I'm going to do it. But I picked up a nasty little in July. I picked up a nasty little. It's a bacteria that lives in the ocean. It's a flesh-eating bacteria called Vibrio, and I've been dealing with this for months now. I mean, ended up was on like 6 different rounds of antibiotics, and still wouldn't go away. I finally had to go in and have surgery. I had a vacuum like this wound vac on, and stitches and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, all that stuff it's all been taken care of. I am officially Vibrio free. I'm still healing a little bit. I mean, still looks pretty gnarly. It's not the prettiest thing to look at, but it's a flesh-eating bacteria. But anyway, all that stuff is kind of, I'm moving past it. Let's put it that way. And I wasn't able to go to the gym for the past 12 weeks. So I have been like, I mean, like my ass is sore. My butt is sore from sitting. I mean, it's just sitting so much. I just can't. Um, I've never sat. Well, I have sat that long before, but um, I don't do well when I can't move my body. um, so yeah, this morning was my very first trip back to the gym since all of this happened, and so now I will be back on the regular basis. And I mean, it was. I explained it to you this morning already. It was a shit show. It was not. Um I mean, if I didn't know those people and the people that I go to the gym with, because it's a CrossFit gym, so we do group stuff. But if I didn't know those people, and if they didn't know me, they would have thought that I was just some out of shape old man. Like, it was pretty rough, pretty rough. But I'm super happy I did it. I mean, I feel better already. Like I have energy, and I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night, so I've got all this energy, and yeah, that stuff just. I know what it is. You would think that hardcore exercise like that would make you tired, but it does not make me tired. It makes me.
Get you
it
injured.
makes me up. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Gets you injured.
So anyway, what about you? Tell us about your woes and your victories and all that good stuff.
Um, I don't know that I have any particular woes and victories. As I was mentioning to you, I had a test done, and people are trying to suggest to me that I'm working out too much, perhaps. so, I don't know. I got to tone down. Of course, my wife tells me that too, so I got to maybe tone it down a notch too. I get my detail oriented nature, my obsessive compulsiveness. That's just like, I hit the workouts hard when I hit them, or typically, and so maybe I just need to ratchet it back. I'm getting to be an old guy here, so gotta gotta stay in touch, right? You gotta stay,
Yeah.
like, gotta use the head, gotta use the common sense sometimes, and tone it down a notch. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm already losing my voice, by the way. We're only, what, five
let's see
minutes
that.
into this thing?
Yeah, well, I was just getting ready to ask you what is on tap for our topic today.
All right. Well, today we're going to look at a very important topic that is that a lot of real estate investors overlook, and those are the hidden costs. A lot of the hidden costs that absolutely kill real estate deals. And everybody's guilty of this, by the way. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. Probably me more so than you because of your quote detailed.
Oriented nature.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's good stuff.
yeah. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been in this business. It still happens. I mean, especially if you get comfortable. If you get comfortable in this business and you think you're maybe, I don't know, maybe you're some kind of hot shot. You think you've got on big boy pants and you're doing really well, and you just get complacent. You don't do the due diligence that you think that you probably should have. Excuse me. And yeah, it happens. It still happens. So every once in a while, so it's a good idea to just revisit it and kind of reinforce some of the good habits that I think we all need to keep front and center at all times.
Going back to basics a little bit is what I like to call that. And
Yeah.
you're right too. You overlook stuff, especially when you get busy and spread thin, as we have been last few months. So we thought it was a timely one also to.
I want to say something about that too. I have a real good friend. Man, I'm losing it here. But I have a real good friend that would say he would always say he'd say, "Yeah, people tell me I've got too many stakes in the fire," but he goes, he said something to the effect. I don't remember the exact wording that he used, but he said, "But eventually one of those stakes are going to start to burn."
That's true. That's true. That's
And
right.
I mean, I guess that's one good way to look at it. But boy, I'll tell you, when you get this is another problem with having quote too many stakes in the fires. You start overlooking things, and it's a if you're beyond what your current capacity is, then things are going to get overlooked. It's just the way that it is. And I could see I've had to very recently. I don't know about you, but very recently I've had to turn some deals down. Like
Yep.
I can't do it. Like I can't take it. I can't take anything else on right now. And it
Yep.
sucks because these people that are I have a like you. I have a fairly decent network, and I don't have to do a ton of my own marketing anymore. But so some of these people that are bringing me these deals are like tried and true repeat. It's repeat business over and over, and I hate. It bothers me to tell them no, although I know that probably in their eyes, like I'm just another buyer, but still, it's like I hate turning them down, but I have to. I can't take it on. It would just be a disaster. So I had to turn some people down lately. So anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this title, the hidden cost of real estate deals here.
Well, you want to get right into it then? So probably like, you know, top of the list. Well, the top of our list anyway is insurance, insurance, right?
Yeah, particularly when it comes to the subject to stuff. Um, yeah, because a lot of people think, well, I guess we have to kind of talk about how this situation comes to be. Um, when you buy a property subject to, you're taking ownership of that property, and so um, when you take ownership, you have to get a new policy. You have to get a new insurance policy. So you have your seller, or you can get on the phone with your seller. You can call and have the old policy canceled. Well, in most cases, now I've worked this in a couple of different ways where if that insurance refund, whatever's left over, from that old policy is going to get refunded back to, well, it's going to be refunded back to whoever's name is on that policy. Um, I've worked it both ways. One where I'd say, hey, that's I'm buying this house from you, but I need the proceeds from that
Mm-hmm.
policy.
All
That,
the all the
those are
escrow proceeds are mine
Yeah,
now, right? Yep.
right. So you can do that, or you can, if you want to, you can negotiate. Use that as a negotiating tool. You can say, hey, well, if they're asking for, say, if they're asking for 10,000, and there's 3,000 sitting in the escrow account. Well, you can say, well, hey, you can have the whatever's left in the escrow account. I'll give you 7,000, or I'll give you 6,000. So you can work it both ways, but more often than not, I mean, this is I don't know, what would you say? Probably 75, 80% of the time, this is something that is overlooked, particularly in subject to deals. Are these
Yes.
refund checks?
And then yes, we're making sure. In fact, we've got our partner did down in Florida too. We're working on this issue presently. Um, because yeah, that was an interesting situation down there. But yeah, but I would say that's overlooked about getting the insurance, or even the cost. And like you said, that can be a decent dollar amount, two, three, $4,000, depending on where you are. Like in Florida, you have to have flood insurance, especially if you're on the coast, and you have to have wind,
Yeah. Yep.
hurricane, basically hurricane insurance. And so the policies are $4,000 plus for a standard typical house. So yeah, it can be a lot of money, and you have to make sure that you don't leave that on the table, right? Or like you said, maybe you do give it back to the named insured or whoever's on the policy. But and also too, that other hidden cost is you want to make sure, like if you're doing it the other direction too, you want to make sure you're properly insured. This is another hidden cost. Like I'm not properly insured, and even if you have a landlord policy, if it's a rental or whatever the case may be, right? You want to make sure that you have appropriate insurance on that. Like you have, like if it's a true rental, you have lost rent on there. You have all those sorts of things. So you want to make sure that your policy right, actually covers you in the event of, of issues. And the more coverages you have, the more riders, whatever they call it for your policy, the more expensive it's going to be. So those are costs that you have to make sure that you're aware of when you're going out and doing your deals.
Yeah, while you were talking about that, I was thinking about builder's risk. A lot of people don't realize if you're rehabbing a house or um, or otherwise maybe you're just fixing one up and it's going to take a long time and you're going to buy and hold. You're taking a long time, but you've got contractors in there. Uh, a builder's risk policy is it's just another added expense on top of your general insurance policy. So, but yeah, it's crazy. It's funny. I mean, I think it's great that you bring up the type of policy that you need, because you want to be sure to have the correct, as you're stating, the correct type of policy for the given situation. So if you are going to be rehabbing a property that you're going to put into your portfolio, you're going to have a vacant policy right off the bat. That's a vacant policy is a lot more expensive than a what I'm zoning on the what they call the other type of policy right now.
The landlord policy.
The landlord, thank you, landlord policy, or yeah, in our case it would be like the owner's policy, or but yeah, I mean it's not a huge difference, but it definitely is going to eat into your bottom line. And those policies, most of them there's a 3 month minimum as far as the payment goes, meaning your premium, as far as the premium goes, rather, your premium, you're going to pay a minimum of 3 months of that, whether you get done with that project, prior to that 3 months or not. So, I mean, it's just a little something to think about. All that little cost adds up over time.
Yep. And can I just say something about the landlord policy too?
Yeah.
So if you have the property and you need to do some updates on it, but you're going to keep it as a rental, like, you need to be very sure that your landlord policy allows it to be vacant for a period of time, like at the beginning. And most of them do, by the way.
Yeah, most of them are built in. Yeah.
Most of them are built in for at least 90 days, but you want to make sure that, because as you mentioned, you have contractors in there and something happens with the contractor, your landlord policy is going to be the first one to say, you're friggin' out of luck.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to, well, we need to make sure that they understand it's a vacant dwelling.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you just need to be honest with your insurance agent too, to an extent, and use we have pretty good insurance people we use regularly up here, but you need to be able to make sure you understand the system there.
Right. Kind of the last, I think one of the last points that it's not in my notes here, but I wanted to talk about was the different rates between. So your insurance premium is based largely upon your credit score.
Yeah, your personal credit score. Right?
Personal, correct. Yes, and they can tell you that it doesn't. I've heard people argue about it. I'm telling you, it does not matter. If you call up, they're going to ask you. They're not insuring a business. Somebody owns that business. They're insuring the person that owns that business. They're underwriting that person.
Yep.
So yeah, just keep that in mind. I think it'd be as part of your due diligence. In fact, part of our due diligence package that we use to underwrite all of our deals. It's specifically, there's a specific task for you to go out and get three insurance quotes. Just like you would a contractor, you get 3 quotes for a contractor, 3 quotes for a subcontractor. You got to get 3 insurance quotes from 3 different companies. It'd be good practice. Now, we don't always do that. I think once you find a good one,
yeah, that
you're happy with, and you know that their rates are good, you can pretty much stick to that one. But that is a factor that I'm quite embarrassed to admit. I didn't find that out until like 2 years ago. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yep.
So
yeah, and that works both ways too on your thing. So remember, if you're, and especially on a subject to deal, those people in there, right, might have, right, because it might be an arrears situation, and so their insurance rates might be higher just because their credit isn't as good. So hopefully you might be able to bring that rate down if you have better credit because you're going to be getting a new policy and all that too. So just keep those things in mind. And sometimes that could be a big swing.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a big swing in
Yeah.
price, so premiums.
Yeah. Look at you talking about the Florida deal. I think, and I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but the Florida deal, what was in escrow was something like for insurance. The insurance was 6,500 or something like that.
600 for, and it was force placed. Yeah, it was force placed insurance.
Well, that makes sense though. I didn't know it was force placed. I thought that was what. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but
I think
our new policy is 4,200. So yeah, I mean, you got to. Yeah, those are big expenses.
right. That's a massive swing. I mean, that's that's a over what, I don't know how much, $150 a month, something like that.
Yeah, it's a good cash flow piece. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right.
I hate to even talk about this one, but yeah, we can get super into the weeds on taxes. But because the very first bullet that I have here in my notes is talking about not just the property taxes, but what occurs every time you sell or let's say you purchased a property for, I don't know, you purchased it for $100,000. If you turned around and sold that property for 250 after you've rehabbed it and everything, the property has a new value to it. And at least here, there's a few counties here where we're at. It's St. Louis, St. Charles, and Jackson County in Missouri. Every single time that you sell a piece of property, you have to fill out what's called a certificate of value.
Yep.
And that certificate of value lets the city know, and it's usually just the sales price is what that is. And so that lets them know, guess what? Wow, I left my screen go blank. But that lets the taxing authorities know that you've got a new value to that property. And so a lot of times people don't, it's not super, if you're a buy and hold investor, you're probably not going to have much of this problem. But if you're a flipper, you just got to know that you got to try and, you can't really figure it out either. That's the problem, is like, you can't figure out what the reassessment is going to, how it's going to affect your buyers, but I know there are a lot of people, a lot of states, Virginia is one of them, where, if you sell a property, that property gets reassessed like pretty much immediately, its value. So the next tax bill that comes, the next tax year that comes, it's got to, they're going to have a massive swing in what that property tax is going to be. So, by the way, and I'm gonna ramble just for a second about my, I've talked many times about how I'm on this mission to get people to start using trusts instead of transferring.
Indeed.
Deeds. We transfer beneficial ownership. That's a totally private transaction. If we can get people to understand that, these reassessments that we have and these property tax increases, and I'm hoping you guys are making the connection here. There's no reassessment if you sell a property, or I'm sorry, if you sell beneficial ownership, because that is private. That is a private transaction. It's not known at all by the taxing authorities. It's not on record. It's not recorded.
Yep, and it's personal property. It's not even a real estate transfer. Right.
Right. So I mean, we maybe one of these episodes we can talk about that a little bit more. But yeah. So educate yourself on using trusts, and let's all come together and start selling personal property versus real estate. That would be
privately selling personal property privately.
Yes.
Inside the trust.
Yes.
Instead of having Skynet all up in your business all the time.
I will tell you, though, as an aside to that, there are some states, I don't know how they would find this out, but there are some states that still require that if beneficial ownership changes, it's supposed to be reported.
Yes, there
I
are.
know,
Yeah,
and I know, I'm pretty sure Virginia is one of those.
yeah,
Hawaii is definitely one of those. I've done that in Hawaii, and I know I know that's the case.
yeah. But that's okay. I was gonna say we have a great land trust essentials course too, by the way. But I didn't see my little package thing for it here. But uh, just go to our website and
You've kind of taken charge of that thing, man. I like that.
what I mean. I'm knocking on my beautiful little code things that I can never. So I'm gonna do the shameless plug here, and I'll just say partner with us, and we'll do it for you. We'll set it up. We'll set it up together. We'll put the property in there. We'll do the trans. And we've got actually a buddy I've done real estate stuff with before. I was just talking to him yesterday about doing a deal. He wants to sell or finance a property he owns. He's going to be the seller, and he wants to do it inside the trust. And so we were talking about how to do all of that in there, and that we have two deals right now that we're financing stuff like this inside the trust, right? One in Illinois and one in Florida. So yeah,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's a tough sell because people just don't understand it.
yeah, they
So
think it's shady. I mean, because when you explain to it, like it's under this umbrella of the trust, and you just say, "Well, shouldn't we be recording stuff? Don't we want?" So it's like, no, not really. Like, I don't want people in my business. Like, yeah, I'm not really a fan. Not really a fan.
you know what I always tell them? I say it's already recorded. It's
That's
already
right.
done. There's an
That's right.
insurance. There's a
Trust
title
our
policy.
business. That's
Yep.
right, bro. What we do inside the trust now is our business. That's right.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I just think it should. I don't know. It's just such a. Uh, it
You're,
just. It's just got to be. It's got to be more prevalent in our world. It really does. Anyway, all right. So that's enough about trust.
all right.
The thing we
Well,
want to hit on here.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and the only other thing I think I'll say about taxes, at least here in Missouri, and I believe it's the same over in Illinois, every 2 years is the reassessment year.
Hmm.
And if you can find a company or protest your taxes, do so.
Yeah.
Always do so.
Yeah. I've been so bad about that. So bad, and I'm losing. I don't know. I couldn't even begin to tell you how much I've lost because I've not fought my property taxes. But um, we just had a couple partners, in fact, in the program that went out and fought them. Just on their own, and no
Success.
problems. No problems. Successful.
Yep. Yep. Now that doesn't always happen. That's why a good company might be wise too, depending on where you live. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And the only other thing, this isn't really tax related, I suppose, but the only other, I guess if we can kind of group this in with taxes, but um, part of your due diligence needs to be local assessments. I mean, this could be public, assessments from public works. It could be assessments from an HOA, or any government or non-governmental organization that has the ability uh, to assess, to send you an assessment, or to what would you say that is called? I'm trying to search for the right words, but um,
well, I use a special assessment.
levy and assessment is what I'm
Oh
looking for.
yeah, so especially like things like sewer districts,
Yeah,
water districts. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, so assessments, liens, obviously. Of course, this is what title companies are for. This is why you should probably always use a title company. And any kind of unpaid bills that might follow the property. Um, Certainly, most of those things, like unpaid bills, meaning like utility bills. It would be like, of course, this follow the homeowner. But I have had cases here locally where I wasn't able to turn on. I can't remember if it was water. Excuse me. Can't remember if it was water or electric. I wasn't able to turn it on until the previous bill was paid because they were so far behind on the bill.
yep.
Uh, and I don't know if that was just um, maybe that customer service agent had a bad day that day, but that's supposed to follow the individual. That's not supposed to follow
It
the
it
property.
does, but it does not always. Like that property we have, one of the properties we have over there in Illinois, it did not. It sat on the property, and people know that. Like your tenants or your end buyers, your tenant buyers know that, and so they'll just stop paying the bill, and they'll know that whoever takes it over, the actual homeowner will have to do it. Especially if it's a city. That was the city, a city
Oh
bill.
yeah,
So
yeah. If it's a city service that you haven't paid for, then
yeah, it
that's
sits on
more
the
than
property. Yeah, it sits on the
they
property.
get paid, because those are what we call super liens. So those follow the property, um, which one could argue that probably shouldn't. Should I don't know why. I don't know why one party should be, meaning your buyer, should be penalized for someone else not paying their bill, but happens all the time. Happens every day.
Yeah, so someone else's debt should not be imposed on me. It wasn't my debt, but
Right.
yes, I
Right.
know what you're saying too. Bill. And let's get, since you mentioned too, let's just skip down to HOA, another obvious one too,
Ooh. Ooh.
especially if you're doing condos, townhouses, right? So you get your monthly fee, and for condos and townhouses across the country, especially in Texas and Florida right now, that shit is going through the roof. In
Oh,
fact, a
dude.
lot of investors are just staying away because of all of that. Insurance costs, the community insurance cost for all that is going through the roof. So just be wary of that. And of course, you need to know any special assessments that are due. You know, they're replacing the roofs on all the buildings. Like when's that coming due, or is that, a special assessment for 2 years or however long it is. So just make sure you're aware of all those things, because sometimes, especially the special assessment, that shit's not disclosed very plainly. So
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you inquire about that, especially for condos
Yeah.
and houses. So,
And you can actually, I mean, I don't know how much good it really does, but um, you can actually protect yourself a little bit about that by stating some of that in your closing documents or in your agreements, that you can request that your seller, for example, you can say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, are you aware of any special assessments that are coming about or are planned for the next year or so? And if they say no, but they've been notified, well, you've got a little bit of an argument for some maybe some compensation there. Um, what else here? Let's move on to the next.
yeah, let's go back. So let's hit up, and this one again, kind of an obvious one, but repairs and deferred maintenance.
Oh man, yeah,
And sometimes when you're looking at a property and it's got all kinds of stuff in there, doesn't necessarily have to be a hoarder property, but let's say you're down in the basement and they have storage and stuff in there. You can't see the foundation completely and clearly and all that stuff. You have to make sure, like in your due diligence, you have to make sure that you got to look at that stuff, right? That's why a final walkthrough is very important when everything's cleaned out of there. Now, obviously, every deal is different. Sometimes the as is stuff, maybe you just say you're just going to leave the stuff in there. All kinds of different things you can do. But I'm just saying, just make sure, especially that structural, the structural and the systems, the mechanicals. Like you got to get in there. You got to get your guys in there. Whatever you're comfortable doing, like you got to get up on the. You got to get a roof guy up on the roof. I can't see. I sometimes damage is obvious and sometimes it's not so obvious. That's why sometimes you need to have those experts in your pocket when you're doing your due diligence looking to acquire a property.
yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about deferred maintenance a little bit deeper. Like, because I don't think it sounds simple on the surface, but deferred maintenance is more than just roofs and you know uh, HVAC. I mean, it could be, let's say you bought a property with a tenant in it. Well, deferred maintenance, you obviously can't get in there and rehab the property.
Right?
Whenever the tenant leaves, that is deferred maintenance. That's part of it. It's not just the capex items. That's what I'm trying to say. It's
Yeah.
uh, it's anything that needs to be done prior to your next tenant taking 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 up residence in that property. So um, so yeah, yes, it's capex, but it's also just the little things, and you got to be super thorough with this. This is why your property inspection checklists come in. I mean, if you're not going to a property with a property inspection checklist, then I mean, you're just asking for trouble. Shame on you. You should be taking everything down, and I'm the type of person, I kind of have a I don't know. There are things that I can overlook, admittedly, like they're like small little repairs that seem innocuous at the time, but um, those can turn into big dollars later down the road. And so you want to document every single little thing. You want to account for it. Um, you got to be particular. And again, this is one of those things where, like, when you're in this for kind of the length of time that you and I are, you can kind of get lazy and kind of get a little bit of lackadaisical about it. And
Yes. Yeah.
so, I mean, everybody's guilty of it, but the property inspection checklist, um, sometimes when I would go through looking at these properties with this checklist, I would feel a little awkward, like I'm being judgy or something. So, meaning to the seller who was there meeting me for the appointment. But you just got to explain that, hey, I've got to document everything here. I need to know what this is going to cost me later down the road. It's nothing against the house. I just have to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence here.
Yeah, absolutely. You exactly are. You got to evaluate the deal appropriately, of course, and that's part of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So the next time, you already mentioned it too, like utilities, right, and the carrying costs, and how much does this property cost me vacant, right? Like we're dealing with that with 3 properties right now. Like what are these carrying costs?
Yeah.
And, you start rolling them up. Okay, well, I got another property, and then here's another property, and that now we're 3 properties in. I'm like, man, shit starts to add up on you a little bit there that you got to be, you have to be aware of too. And I just want to say, sometimes it's hard to know. Like for instance, this one property, I was talking to you. Well, the water bill is $75.
I was just thinking about that.
The water bill is $75. It's a perfect example. The water bill is $75. No one's there.
The water shut off. I shut the water off.
It's off. The reason it's so much is because there is a monthly sewer part of the sewer fee happens to be with the water bill for this particular property. And the base sewer fee is $62 a month. The base sewer fee.
Yeah.
For me not to pour anything down my drain,
right,
is $62 a month.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so funny you brought this.
Really find that out until you have the service, right? I mean, I guess theoretically you could call the company and say, "Hey, what's your base charge there?" Or you can ask. One of the ways to do is to ask the seller for the utility bill, so you can see what's included on each bill or not. But I mean, that's a very atypical. That's a very expensive base charge for sewer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you're not going to negotiate those. So you just it's got to be something that up front, especially if you're going to be a buy and hold, if you're going to do rentals, that type of business. Because generally speaking, maybe not all the time, I think it's maybe 50-50. A lot of landlords pay for water, sewer, trash. So it's something to be aware of. It's something to know. And yeah, I was just, as soon as we started talking about this topic, immediately I went back to the rant that you gave me about the about the water bill there, which is amazing to me. It's literally 70, what'd you say, 78, 72?
Almost 75 a month for the base charge.
Just to have a water connection. No water, just a connection.
Yeah, not to use it, just to have it on. Right.
It's crazy. Yep.
Yeah, that's a little cool too. But so next item is going back to this is when you acquire the property, your transaction and your closing costs. Sometimes those numbers get spread when you see the settlement statement, right? We have great title companies, so we tend to see those things reasonably in advance, but not always, right? And especially if there's 2 different title companies involved. I've noticed lately that the timeliness of getting anything when there's 2 title companies involved is atrocious. So don't be shocked. Like, know what those costs are and have an idea going in there. So when you see the settlement statement, you can compare that and you can say, and oh, by the way, question the costs.
Hmm.
Like, I question them all the time and just say, well, why am I paying that? Like, you guys did the front end of this, and now I'm coming back and we're doing the other end of the transaction. Like, don't I get a discount for repeat great customer smiling discount? Like, and the answer is yes. Yes, you do. So ask for that. And a lot of times they won't put it on there. So you have to ask for sorts of things, but just make sure you're not being overcharged for services.
Yeah. And one other major point that I want to make about uh, transactional closing costs. Those of you who are buying from wholesalers, and say you're getting a contract assigned to you, a lot of times in those wholesalers contracts, it will say that you agree to this price plus any closing costs, all closing costs. But the contract will not state what those closing costs include.
Right.
And so it's almost intentionally left vague, or it's either ignorantly or intentionally left vague because they haven't done the due diligence to know what those. I mean, excuse me. Prime example is this little property I bought up here in St. Louis County. Um, Now I got a really smoking deal on this house. I mean, I bought this house, basically took it subject to. It's kind of a long story, but we did a quiet title suit on it, and but I ended up all in on this house for like $16,000. All right, which the house is worth 110. So it was a super smoking deal. Well, I get to the closing table, my $16,000 turned into $23,000. I'm like, well, what's going on here? And um, as it turned out, I thought I was getting such a great deal, and that's still a great deal. Like it's
Still a
still
great deal. Yeah.
great. I mean, the house needed very little. I think we might have put five, 7,500, maybe $10,000 into this house, but it was my mistake because I did not have, I did never thought that there would be this happened to be like a sewer bill. Um, you know what? I think that's all it was. I think it was a sewer bill.
Sewer lien. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'd been so long since they paid the sewer bill. And that's a super lien that follows the house. It has to be paid in order for title to transfer, or in order for you to get a policy anyway. And I was like, oh, that was just one super hard lesson to learn. It's like that just cost me, even though it was still a great deal, that cost me an extra, close $9,000, close to it. And it's like, ugh. It just kind of got me. So the point is, if you ever see that wording in a contract that you're taking on assignment from a wholesaler, make sure that you understand what those closing costs are and make them. If they're assigning you the contract and they're asking for a fee, either those closing costs come out of their fee, or they're going to have to provide you with what all those closing costs, those extra closing costs are going to be, so that you can budget for it. That's all I have to say about that. It
And
got me.
one quick thing about title insurance. So title insurance policies, there are two different policies. A lot of people don't like, they see these and they'll just see a cost on there. There's a lender insurance policy.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're getting a loan out there and you're the lender, there's a lender's insurance policy, which is based, the dollar amount you pay is based on the loan size, right? So the bigger the loan, the more you pay. There's also an owner's title insurance policy that's for you, right, as the owner, and that's usually very nominal, like $100 or $150 or something like that. And make sure that they're not screwing you on those fees either, and that make sure that you always see that owner's title insurance policy on there as well.
By the way, subject to, you don't have a lender's policy.
Correct.
Subject to, you just have your own owner's policy. So there goes
Yep.
even more cost savings when you buy subject to.
Yep. So that's it. And then I was getting towards the end here. So just some other, I guess, costs that we talk about, some exit costs. if you are so let's talk about our favorite model, right? We acquire the property, preferably subject to. We find an end buyer that we seller finance directly to, and then we get monthly payments. Okay, so now you have two loans. You have the loan you created to the new end buyer, and then you have the underlying subject to mortgage. We recommend using our servicing company, right? So make sure you have those fees in mind. You know, they're kind of nominal, like they 30. They've gone up to just like everything else, but 30 to 40 bucks a month to service a deal like that. And so just make sure that that's part of the payments. Because sometimes, as we've been talking to you especially, been talking to some end buyers that we want to directly seller finance to, man, 30 or 40 or 50 more dollars it can be the line in the sand for them. So just
Absolutely.
make sure, yeah, just make sure that you're aware of those fees, especially if you want to impose them on your end buyer.
That is so true, man. I've had have major kickback over 30 or 40 bucks because we almost always charge if they we give them the option if they want the note serviced, um, which we probably should just have them serviced no matter what. Um, but in some of these deals, we give them the option of if you want the note service, because obviously a note servicing company can provide they can provide all your tax documents, they can provide you statements, they can provide they can even do credit reporting for you, and that's a lot of times that's what our borrowers are wanting. That's what they desire. And so if that's the case, then we'll say, okay, well, we can have it serviced for you, but it's going to cost 40 bucks. And I've got some major kickback over that. Um, but I do want to touch on one that is so obvious, but it is so overlooked so many times. And you already know what we're going to talk about. And those are other commissions. So, um, we can get into the argument about NAR and who should be paying commissions and all that stuff. My personal opinion on it is, if somebody's going to bring me a buyer, I'm happy to pay their commission. I'll just do it. It's like that's a service that I'm willing to pay for.
Yep, service provider. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Um, so that being said, make sure that obviously that is what you're calculating in your numbers. Make sure that you have that in there. But I am going to touch on um, just this one small little strategy that we use to reduce our realtor commissions, and I get a lot of hate for it. A lot of people don't like it, but um, I'm telling you, flat fee listings. I'm actually surprised that there are listing agents still out there. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, somehow they've survived.
Yep.
But when I saw what flat fee listings were doing for the bottom line, I was like, this is crazy. I'll never have another listing agent ever. Um, and I still believe that. For essentially for us, we pay about $350, between $350 and $500 total on the listing side. I'm talking from start to finish.
Mm.
That is, I mean, that beats paying potentially thousands to a listing agent, and boy, it can save you a whole lot of money. Now you do have to represent yourself there, obviously. So maybe that's something you want to kind of educate yourself on how to represent your side of the deal. When it relates to contracts, or maybe you have maybe you've got an agent in a realtor in your network somewhere that wouldn't mind looking over your contracts for you for the first couple. But man, I'm telling you, I just don't see a need for listing agents anymore. I really don't. And then finally, the very last one. This one's particularly aimed at buy and hold investors. And it doesn't matter if you're doing rentals, and it doesn't matter if you are, seller financing. Sometimes these deals go south too. And I happen to think this is largest expense, particularly for landlords, and that is turnover. I don't think that's any secret. It used to be, 4 or 5 years ago, at least here in the St. Louis area, used to be, it would cost you $1,500 or something like that, to have a property made ready and ready for a new tenant. That is no longer the case. We're
Oh,
talking,
5 grand.
oh,
Yeah.
5 grand pretty easily. I mean, that it will easily chew through,
Yeah.
unless you have just massive cash flow. It can easily chew through 8 to 12 months of your earnings on that property.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's so crazy. So,
Yeah.
um,
Easily plan. I typically plan for 6 months for the turnover. Like it's going to take me 6 months to recoup my turnover
yeah,
to get back in there just to plan for it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to get into this today, but obviously, the remedy to that is due diligence on your tenants. Having a really, really good plan in place on screening and qualifying tenants, uh, and really just kind of being like setting a hard line, like they're putting a line in the sand, and on what you will and what you will not accept, or who you will and who you will not accept, because it is insanely expensive. It's something that people don't. Um, they just don't think it's going to happen. They just, for some reason, or they think they'll get in there and they'll do some sweeping, they'll do a little bit of painting, what have you. Next thing you know, I mean, like you're saying, like, next thing you know, if you're doing that, your turnover is taking 3 or 4 months. That's lost revenue, number one. Then you've got another 6-ish months, possibly,
Oh,
maybe 3 months on the turnover is a little bit long, but I think it's probably proper to plan that long, because you've got, however many days to get in there and get it cleaned up and get it made ready. You've got to go out and find a tenant, qualify a tenant. Perhaps that tenant's got to move from somewhere else and the dates don't line up. So you can plan for 90 days of no revenue generation at all from that property. And then when you do find that tenant, like you're saying, you've got all those costs that were built in. You got the lost revenue. You've got all the maintenance and everything you had to do to that property. Now you've got another 6 months potentially before you recoup all that money off of the cash flow. And then you're just starting at zero.
yeah. Now we're at zero, and I might have to do this again 6 months from now.
Right. Yeah. So, man, it's getting more and more and more important to really start screening tenants hard. And this is not just on the rental side. This can happen on the seller finance side as well. You have somebody that defaults on a loan. You've got a house that you've taken back, and the thing's a dump. It's turned into a dumpster fire,
Yep.
and now you've got to get in there and clean it up. I mean, it can definitely happen, although it's far less likely to happen on the seller finance side, or the frequency, at least,
Yeah, way lower.
is
Yeah.
far less, because people put large sums of money into a deal. Obviously, it's much harder to walk away. It's much harder to not perform. That's why, another reason why I like seller finance so much. But yeah, I know this kind of doesn't. Maybe turnover is not something that you can predetermine when you're going to buy a property, but I think it should be something that to consider, at least in the back of your mind. Like how, if you can figure it out, calculate. Okay, well, if I'm going to hold on to this thing, I need to hold on it for X amount of years before it's either one, appreciated in value, or two, I've earned X amount or X percentage of ROI on this thing. How long is it going to take me to do that? So, kind of more of a long term plan, more so than like a transactional type of expense, um, that you may not see coming. If that makes sense.
Yep. Yep. And that's our expense eating list. I think our asset cash flow eating list. So just summarize real quick. Don't be scared to walk into, especially if you're going uh, into meet with the sellers and you're looking at the property and you're expecting it to have a checklist, have a written checklist. Like don't be scared to do that. It'll save you in the long run. Like we have a lot of great checklists. We have an acquisition checklist, a due diligence checklist. We have all kinds of great
Checklist
checklists.
abound.
That yeah, my detail-oriented nature would suggest that we have a lot of checklists, right? Right, probably. So we indeed do. Always verify, right? We talked about the taxes, the HOA, the utilities, right? Always verify that information. And of course, you want to do it at a title company, but you want to get those documents. You want the HOA documents. You want that. You can never believe the seller. I know. I know, Captain Obvious. Like, oh, but they seem so. No, they like get the stuff in writing. You have to see it to believe it, right? See it to believe it, right? And as you just mentioned, right, which is great, you have to be conservative with your estimates about figuring out your turnover rate. Like you can't really do that unless you have the turnover. But you do know how big the house is. So in a worst case scenario, if I got to paint everything or I have to redo the floors, like what is that going to cost me? Like you can figure those sorts of things out and be conservative. So and then which then leads to always have reserves, got to have some money, got to have a plan. If the worst case happens, can you weather it?
You know how many people I know that in recent years the Burr method has not been very popular just because of these interest rates, right?
Yep.
You know, but when it was super popular, just this was just what 5 years ago. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was like everybody was burning out of these things.
Yep.
Didn't they go out and leverage all of their properties, but they wouldn't leave reserves. They didn't have reserves built up, and it's like, okay, well now you're now you're in trouble. This is what gets people in trouble. It honestly is, and I just use the Burr method. The Burr strategy is just one example, but this has to apply to every single deal you do. And as I always say, every single deal must pay for itself. And so that includes reserves. If I'm going to go buy a property and, if I'm going to, say I buy it just cash and I refi out, that whole chain of events leading up to the cash actually hitting my hand has to lead to one of those things that you need to set back and try your hardest not to or just put it in a separate account is you got to have reserves. You got to. um, and I am not one that's totally innocent in that category. I found out the hard way, but it's a standard practice now, and you just can't do it. You just can't. You can quickly become over leveraged without reserves.
Yep.
I just say that.
Yep. Be able to weather the storm. That's how I
Yep.
like to look at it. So
Yeah, because it will come for sure.
it always does sooner or later. It
Yep.
always does. That's correct. So, and I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. So I know like we knew coming in like some of those things seem overly obvious, but it's always good to take a reset back, get back to the basics, and think, okay, how can this deal screw me, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to look at things optimistically, like what is the worst case scenario and how can I avoid that? Well, these hidden costs, right? Knowing how to not have these hidden costs kill you is the way to avoid that.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I guess we're gonna sign off. You good?
Sounds good. Have a
You know.
great week. We'll see you next time.